Everybody, I'm just I guess we're not going to edit this because the editor is traveling in Korea right now, having a wonderful time. So I guess it's weird that you've been looking at me for like 3-4 minutes now. Ari's on the way. We're going to start the filming of the weekend show. Um, could we edit it? Sure. Am I gonna? No, because this is free content. And I'm not thrilled that the first 5 minutes of this was y'all just staring at me, but free content is free. And if it's not your cup of tea, we would urge you to not consume it. Ooh, I think Ari's here.
Hello, hello.
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 Were you waiting for long? I apologize.
No, I wasn't.
Perfect.
Perfect.
All right.
Right.
All of
All
the
of the
articles are behind. We have an echo today.
We do.
Are you on
Are you on
speakers?
speakers?
I am just using my laptop. I don't know. Should I go out and come back in? Is it you're hearing my voice echo or your voice?
I'm hearing my voice.
Ooh, okay.
Honestly.
What about when I mute? Hold on.
Test. No echo and muted. So it might be on your end.
Okay. Do you want me to try going out and coming back in just to see?
Maybe.
Okay.
I believe Ari is connecting to audio.
Is this any better? Is there still
Let's
echo?
check. No echo. Problem
Amazing.
solved. Wow, it's like we hit the power button and restarted it.
Right?
That's amazing.
I always feel like I'm an IT genius whenever I do something very simple, like turn something on and off, and it works.
I mean, clearly you are. It worked. All of our articles are behind a paywall today, which amazing, high quality reporting. I'm sure they deserve every penny. But the result of that is I know nothing about our articles today, which makes me sad.
I will educate you, and I can send you PDFs in the future.
Ooh, thank you.
Because I have subscriptions to most of these. I think the LA Times is the only one that I don't. No, I actually do have a subscription.
Really? You follow the LA Times?
Yeah, because some of my clients get covered there, and
That makes sense.
Reporters there, and I've had people's op-eds published there. So yeah, but no, I guess no, I don't have a subscription to the LA Times. It's been totally gutted. Like most of the journalists who used to work there no longer work there. One time I was working on a story with a journalist, and he was like on his way to travel to meet a source, and he wrote to us and was like, "Hey, so I just got laid off."
Ooh, a lot of that going around these days. Do you share the New Yorker disdain for LA?
Ooh, I mean, not that like I don't have disdain for LA. I just would never live there. I think that LA is a bit too, everyone just seems to be too cool, but it's a performance. They're like, "Oh, we don't talk about those certain things." And I'm like, "Why not? I think they're interesting to talk about." And they're like, "We don't, in our off time, we don't want to talk about things that aren't related to wellness and the outdoors," or at least that's been my interpretation of people who are in LA. And I just hate driving everywhere. I know everyone else has to do it in every other part of the country, but in New York, you get so spoiled to just be able to walk places. And I also love that New York is so spontaneous. Like you can meet friends. I've like run into people on the street in New York a number of times. And in LA, it's like, oh, we'll plan a dinner a month and a half from now, and we'll
Yeah.
each drive an hour to meet one another. So yeah, I something about my energy, it always gets zapped when I'm in LA. If I'm feeling a little manic and I need to calm down,
Oh,
nice to be there and relax. But if I need momentum, New York's the place for me.
interesting. On the driving, I feel you. Driving also saps my energy. So I have like I commute like 9 hours a week in terms of like to the farm and back, right? So it's 4.5 hours each way. So I just went and bought a self-driving car. Not a Tesla, to be clear, not a Tesla, but um not a political statement. I just know that when you say self-driving car, people are like, oh, it's a Tesla. It's not a Tesla.
Mhm.
Um, it's amazing. Like it's terrifying, but it's incredible.
So
Like
where do you sit? Do you sit in the passenger seat or?
no, you sit in the driver's seat and the driver, the steering wheel has a light on it. And when the
Mhm.
self-driving is going well, the light is green.
Yeah.
And if the self-driving is concerned, it goes blue and it pulses and your seat vibrates like it has a haptic seat. And if it gets scared, like I had a big wind blast, like hit the car. It's a big truck, so like it catches wind pretty, and it was kind of like nudging out of the lane. And the self-driving freaked out and was like, blew up my seat, haptic seat, like shaking, red on the steering wheel, like put your hands on. But it's pretty chill. It's like okay with you looking at your phone a little bit. It's okay, and obviously you keep you're aware, you pay attention to the road, everything. Um, but it's really, really good. And it's amazing at night with deer because the
Mhm.
infrared is better than my eyes. So,
Mhm.
like, there's a lot of deer in, northern New Hampshire that come up on the highway and occasionally a moose. And it's more aware of them than I am. Like, it'll like
Wow.
respond to them. And I'm like, whoa, hey, what are you doing, buddy? And then you look and you're like, oh, yeah. It's very, technology is amazing. I
That's
don't know.
amazing.
Yeah.
What do
But
you like? Have you had to override it at times or not really?
yeah, I had so I made the mistake of using it a little too close to New York City, and somebody in like a $2,000 POS like decided they were gonna like ram me for whatever. Like they were just like gonna they just busted across 3 lanes and were like gonna hit the front of my car, and the truck very clearly was like, oh, I better veer away, and then there was a semi there, and my truck was like, oh, I don't want to hit the semi, so I guess I'm gonna ram this car that's coming at me because it's smaller. And I was like, oh my god, don't do that. Like, just
Oh
hit
my
the
gosh.
brakes. You can slow down.
Yeah.
Um, but otherwise, it's been amazing.
Yeah, I've always imagined that self-driving cars would be incredible for like long haul highway drives.
Yeah,
Just things that are a bit more like routes that are a bit more predictable. I mean, I guess moose and deer can be unpredictable, but when you get into this city, the number like the permutation of like things
yeah,
that can happen while you're on a city street, like
yeah.
I don't know if we're at the point of being able to predict all of those.
I would not use it in the city. And in the city, you get a lot of people who just drive like once a year. So you
Right.
get
Yeah.
like people who are uncomfortable going over 25. You get like 25 miles per hour. You get people who are just like freaking out and like doing crazy stuff. And, I just don't think it's viable. I agree with you. But in the middle of nowhere, oh my God, it's phenomenal.
Oh my gosh. Um, okay, shall we get into it?
Please do. Yes. Where are we
So,
starting?
do we want to do intros or do people?
Oh
Oh,
yeah. What am I doing?
okay.
We're also not editing again this week because the
Okay.
the editor is still abroad in Korea.
All right.
Um, I'm Vince White. I'm an employment attorney. At this point, you've been staring at me for like 10 minutes. That's my fault. I did not admit Ari. She was in the waiting room. On this channel, normally we answer publicly posted questions from YouTube users, but not today. This is our weekend show, which is a current events show with my co-host.
Hello, my name is Ari, Ariella Steinhorn. I'm a writer, storyteller, freelance journalist, former and sometimes current publicist. I tell people stories, and I'm really into, and I work with a lot of people who have difficult or sensitive or revealing workplace stories to share with the world. So that's me.
quick comment about the show, and I think you've also experienced this differently. I made a joke in one of the last two episodes about why reporters call me when they want comment for a story.
Mhm.
And I was not aware of this, but like more than five journalists were like, I didn't really appreciate that joke, which
Interesting.
is fine. That's fine. They cannot appreciate the joke, and they made points. But I was actually more like, wait. This show's doing like 400 or 500 views, and it seems like 50 of them are journalists. Like, I don't really understand that.
Wow.
That's wild to me. Are
What
you
was your
also
joke
experiencing
again?
that? What?
I've had I don't even remember what your joke was. I think you were
Oh,
talking
I mean, I'll
about
say it
Ovid.
again
Yeah.
at the risk. So I joke that I think that reporters call me for comment because since Avenatti, who
Yeah.
we call Avenatti, went to jail, I'm the mouthiest white guy left. And the joke was there's a there's a certain amount of racial favoritism. They go to the white guy, right? When there's a lot of
Oh.
really great options. And these reporters were like, hey, asshole, how about you just do a good job? And I don't have to be racist to talk to you. And I was like, okay, fair. You, okay, that's fair enough. I'm sorry. But the number of people who commented on that, I was like, oh, I didn't really understand
Interesting.
who was watching.
Journalists are very sensitive about being called out. They're super sensitive about anything, like of showing some sort of bias or any kind of favoritism or like any allegation that they're less than super ethical. They get really antsy. So, but
Yeah,
I didn't really, that's a lot of journalists to be contacting you. I
it
did
is.
have one journalist reach out, to, as you know, because she reached out to you too, who was watching the show and reached out to me because I said on the show that I know Sarah Wynne Williams, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So I imagine, yeah, journalists are, but that's sort of what the new media landscape is these days. Journalists are combing new media. So, like, they're on TikTok, they're on YouTube, they're on Substack, they're on Instagram. And then, um, and then the stories become like legitimate news stories after they bubble up from these more organic places. And I think
Yeah,
that that's now just what they're Reddit, even that's what they're scouring.
yeah.
And then they have to vet it, because someone could just make something up. But that's the way to be. It all is now starting with social media, and that's how things are
It,
getting heard.
absolutely true. Just to clarify that joke, it was purely a joke about white guys failing to the top. It wasn't a comment upon any journalist's like racial preference or anything like that. Like
Yeah,
that was not.
but they're
There was
so
no
sensitive. I
component.
can see how they would have taken it. That they could have been like, well, no one can question my like morals. It was not that
Yeah,
you necessarily were. I think you were being self-deprecating about it, but I think they're so sensitive about their own morality.
which I get. It's a tough business, so I I'll be more careful in the future.
Interesting. Okay. So we have some interesting stories, some of which are just like fascinating human interest stories, in my opinion. The first one that I sent you, it's from the New York Times, and it is, I think it's the first paragraph made me laugh out loud because I feel like it's like the prototypical scene of New York City that conservatives think of or conjure when they think of like, a loose and fast and unethical New York City. This first paragraph is an official in charge of helping people start cannabis businesses in New York City resigned abruptly last week as her agency was investigating an accusation that she tried to pressure another woman into a polyamorous relationship in exchange for a city contract.
Listen, this is why Cuomo is going to be mayor of New York.
You think so?
Like, oh yeah, 100%. I mean, Mayor
Because
Adams, I guess he's doing the podcast circuit, so who knows? All bets are off. Podcast
yeah, I
circuit
saw him on
certainly. I
Andrew
think.
Schultz. I saw him on Andrew Schultz the other
Do
the
you
other
watch Andrew
evening.
Schultz? I'm shocked you watch Andrew Schultz.
I don't. I sometimes so my ex-boyfriend knows him pretty well because he's a Canadian.
Oh, that makes sense. That makes a
And
lot of sense.
um so I sometimes he comes up in my explore page on Instagram and I'm always curious to know what the other side is consuming. Like I don't think he's a terrible guy, but I'm just always curious to know the comedy that's resonating with like Trump voters. Like, I always just want to
Oh,
understand.
interesting. Do you think so he's definitely not like he's definitely anti-woke, but I think he has a lot of minority fandom. Like I don't know how
He
much of it
does, but Trump had a good amount of minority fandom too,
there. He
you
did
know,
actually
except
peel a
for
lot of voters
with the
off of,
exception
yeah.
of the one demographic that voted like astoundingly for Kamala were black women. And I think black men and Latino men, Latino women like skewed more conservative.
Yeah. Well, they were using clips of Charlemagne the God from his show against uh against her. I mean, it like
Mhm.
because her comments about there was some appearance she made where she was commenting on like transition surgery for inmates
Yeah.
and like first off, the president doesn't make that decision. That's just not a like that's not a thing. Why like if somebody gives you that question, you'd be like, hey, I run the planet. Like, how about you? How about we talk about war? How about we talk about resources? How about like
Mhm.
why are we talking about that? But sorry, I'm still mad about it. But I'm sure
Yeah.
Charlemagne was not like thrilled to be taking her
Yeah.
down. But that commercial was running in New Hampshire every 9 minutes.
Oh,
Like
interesting.
it was wild. It was on every NFL broadcast for a period of time. Like it was
Yeah.
constant. And I think that
Yeah, no,
had
it's it
yeah.
was so effective, this idea that the Democrats are like all about like illegal immigrants getting trans surgeries in jail. Like it like it's like laughable, but that was such a like a soundbite that people clung on
Yep.
um to depict the absurdity of it. Because I feel like a lot like polyamory is becoming more and more of a thing, number one. But I think that in the context of like a cannabis dispensary, in this, I'm going back to the story,
Yeah, please do.
a
Sorry.
cannabis dispensary, and like a woman like lording contracts over small businesses if they provide her with polyamorous like relationships, like that all together, I feel like is very similar to like to this trans illegal immigrant in prison kind of a
Oh,
story. So people stitched it they all together. It just sounds like something that the Democrats are pushing on people when they're not.
certainly. There was a judge scandal in New York in the past 2 years where a judge was also, I think, interested in polyamory and may have been using an app meant for polyamory to occasionally hit up women who were perhaps before her in court and who she had power over and also listen I think there's a defense here that like people don't look like on the app like what they look like in court, so like maybe she was just real swipey, like who knows, right? Like may not have been on purpose, but like that was like I think that ended a career in New York very recently for like a
Wow.
legitimate judge. So listen, to your point, polyamory I hear certainly on the rise. You should all be able to do what you want to do, but like gotta be careful. Like that's you can't bring into the
Yeah.
workplace, like
It's just especially bold when you are doing it and you're working for the government. Like I've heard people say to me before, these are guys who I worked with who are tech CEOs or business guys who would never run for public office because they just feel that they want a free private life. Um, to not, I mean, not to do horrible things, but they just don't want to be, they don't want to be in the public sphere in that way and be dealing with public funds and taxpayer funds. Like when you're dealing with that kind of responsibility to the public, then obviously you're going to be more scrutinized. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see what happens with this mayoral race. I do
yeah.
maybe Cuomo is now positioning himself. I saw a New York Magazine article about him and his comeback and how he took time, says he took time to reflect and spent a lot of time with his family and daughters and uh,
Those daughters are important to this conversation. That's his
totally
social credit.
daughter, right? The daughters thing is still so used by men.
Oh
I
yeah.
have daughters, so I would never do this, or I have daughters and I think about them. And I'm like, how about you just, regardless of having a mother, sister, daughter, whatever, just respect a person?
Well, think about the logic there. I didn't realize that women were people until I had, in fact, one that I cared about a lot. And then I finally realized I I think they're real humans, people. Like, I think they're real people. Like, what
And
a
this
wild argument. Like,
this human is 50% me, but in female form, and therefore now
right.
I care about, yeah, they're human
She
beings.
looks a little bit like me. So now
Mhm.
I think she might be human. Like, what? What? Like,
It's insane. Um, so so yeah, but I think it's funny. Yeah, it's interesting how so many stories are coming out about, white people being discriminated against, women sexually harassing men. I've been seeing more and more of those recently, which I think they happen, but probably they happen less than the inverse.
they happen less, and I think men are less impacted by it.
Yeah,
Like,
for
if somebody like is sexually harassing me, I'm like, oh, that's kind of affirming. No thanks. But like,
um,
I feel pretty, like it's just not the same because I
no.
wasn't raised to like clutch keys between my fists when I go to my car at night to be afraid of women. So like if a woman's like being a little pushy, I'm like, I'm okay. Thanks though.
Yeah.
It's just not the same thing.
And it's not harming your career that I know of, right? Like it's not like someone's lording over. If you had a client, let's say, who was sexually harassing you, would you could fire that? You're in a position to fire that client, no?
Yes. But I wasn't always. I had a client who very much was pursuing not me, but wanted to have children through IVF and wanted me to be part of that.
Oh my God.
And it was a tough thing because, I had a lot of money in that case before she started that stuff. And,
Mm.
do you walk away from a six-figure investment or did you just have 30 conversations about like, well, I don't really know if I'd really want to necessarily have children that way, like just have the conversation 30 times and you do a good job. And like I had to at the time because I didn't have an extra 120K to like replace the 120K I have to throw away to fire that client.
Mm-hmm.
Just was what it was.
Right,
Today
right.
I'd be like, no thanks, I'm transferring you. Like it's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah. No, it's difficult until you reach that threshold. Like if you are, um, until you reach a certain threshold where you have that freedom and you still are dependent on like dancing around and walking on eggshells around someone who could bring you a lot of money, it's hard.
It is. It is. We were both there.
Yep, yep.
By the way, is
Uh,
this in the background the boyfriend's art?
yes, it is.
It's really nice.
There's also, I'm blocking with my head. Do you see this?
Oh, my goodness. Wow, someone is feeling inspired. Is there a muse, perhaps?
Perhaps, perhaps. He's right now in the other room painting. He's almost done with this. It's really a masterpiece, his latest, of a train, like a really detailed train, and a woman like walking behind a tree, and you're not sure if she's boarding the train. There's a window in the train that's lit, and you're not really sure if she's getting on the train to go into the room of the train where there appears to be a man there, or if she's just getting off the train and leaving the train. Um,
Oh,
so it has a lot of symbolism for him. Yeah, sometimes he paints these large things and then he explains to me in depth like the symbolism, and I'm like, that's actually brilliant. I
that's
didn't know you were
awesome.
thinking. I thought you were just like you thought this looked pretty and you were painting it, but he has this whole backstory. So
Oh, I love it.
okay,
Okay,
so
sorry.
let's talk about. Okay, this is an interesting story in Business Insider. Revolt of the female execs. Musk, Bezos, and Zuck are going full alpha male. Women are fed up. So, I mean, a few episodes ago, we talked about this masculine culture idea that Zuckerberg was touting on Rogan the other month. And this article is about how women in business are rejecting if they know that a man is or a woman is really abiding by that masculinity policy obsession, they just don't want to work with them if they can. Again, to our previous conversation, like sometimes you have to, but the women who are able to opt out of that, they are.
Makes sense to me. Like I can certainly see why you would.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah. I mean, it's like an obnoxious, it's also weird to like, I mean, it's almost like Zuckerberg in that scenario is like saying, hey, these desirable like traits of aggression and toughness and like durability, these are male.
Mm-hmm.
Are they? Since when? Like, that's new. Are all
Mm-hmm.
good things male in your are bad things female? Like, how are
Yeah,
we looking at the world?
right. I think that they're saying that in business, at home, things are good if they're female, and in business, things are good if they're male. I think that that to
I'm
them,
telling you,
who's like
female
the
attorneys are so
guys.
much harder than male attorneys these days. Like,
Yeah,
they
you've
will cut
mentioned.
you. Like, there is no maleness in aggression in 2025. That ship has sailed. That's over. If it ever was a thing.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, I think that there was this crazy story in the Financial Times a couple of months ago where some anonymous banker said, um, I feel liberated. We can say retard and pussy. Can we? I don't know if I can say these words, but we can say these words without the fear of getting canceled. So everyone was like, that's so strange that that's your, like, that's the hill that you want to die on, is your ability to say those words without being canceled. And then at the same time, women are has the whole girl boss thing of
Hmm.
the 2020s. I think a lot of women felt that if they were more masculine in leadership, they would be canceled for being the girl boss, which did happen.
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so I'm sure it did. I'm sure it happened to people, but like,
Mhm.
I would imagine many companies were like, yes, we like this. Like, I could be wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, investors were like, I think
Yeah.
investors liked the more girl bossy, for lack of a better word, a woman leader was. But then her employees, especially if she had a mission driven business, right? If she
Yeah.
was, if they had a social impact team, or they had like something that was culturally conscious that they talked a lot about, their employees were really, really critical of them if anything in their leadership diverted from the brand that they were projecting. So, and I think part of it is a lot of women tend to have more of a desire to do things that are socially conscious. There have been studies about this as it relates to founding businesses, right? Like women's health companies, um, they just have that. And men do it too, but I think there are just more industries that are ruthlessly capitalistic, that they are socialized or pipelined into, they don't pretend to have a socially conscious element. But then when
Yeah.
women do, and even if they're not pretending and there's reality to it, are when they're not 100% committed to a social cause, because they are running a business after all, then they get criticized. And that's what happened with a lot of the girl bosses.
I mean, there's also a definite component of grace for men, and I think you've actually said it right. New male CEO, he's finding his sea legs when he and the reality is, a CEO, if they're making 51% good-ish decisions, that is a pretty amazing CEO. If they're hitting
Mhm.
55% good-ish decisions, whoa,
Mhm.
that company's headed for the Fortune 500, like no question, right? But if a
Mhm.
woman's making 60% good decisions, oh my God, the criticism, like it's insane.
Mhm.
So I think, to your point, like, there's that component. And then, yeah, like, I don't think investors are super thrilled if you're like, um, hey, we sell widgets, but now we're going to be doing women's liberation studies in Afghanistan as well. And it's just like, well, that's not really our core competency. Like, that's an interesting statement. So there's always gonna be pushback on that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, we'll see. I mean, I think it's not surprising. And I think a lot of women, I think what this article was saying is a lot of women are annoyed that they did at one point maybe adopt more traditionally masculine qualities, and then they were punished more for it. Maybe not if they were deputies or VPs or reporting to a man, but if they
Yeah.
were like the person at the helm of things and they adopted this masculine energy, then they were
Oh,
then they were like retaliated against or exposed as being hypocritical for doing the same thing.
do you think, and I'm not saying it is or it isn't, but do you think it's a good climbing strategy for climbing the corporate ladder, but a bad figurehead strategy? Like when you hit CFO, CTO, CEO, whatever it is, like it's not good once you're highly visible to the outside world.
100%. Because I think that so long as you have cover, this is just my experience, if you have cover of a more aggressive, usually man, and you are just working for him and he protects you, then you're fine. But the second that you start to have your own voice, I think that that's where it changes. And
That's
that's like for
fascinating.
me, I explored for a while this idea that I would raise venture money years ago and was in like a female founder group. And
Yeah.
what I realized is I was like, I don't really want to be necessarily running a huge business where I have investors that I could feel myself becoming more, this is going to sound dramatic, but sociopathic. Like I was like, I have to become more of I have to shut off the empath part of myself. And I just didn't want to do that to fit into a certain business context. And then I realized I've written about this a little bit too, that men would respect me a ton if I were like really logical and hard charging and aggressive and like, rushing towards the money, which I could do. Like I had done that in the past. Um, and then, but then I just didn't like myself as much. That's just how I personally felt. I felt like, oh, I don't know if I want to be in this brain space. And I can still explore like the things that were intellectually stimulating about running a business
Yeah.
or more analytical. I can still explore that without having to be this girl boss female founder. When previously I thought I was like, I have to be one. And I changed my mind.
Interesting.
Hmm.
To your point about being sociopathic, and I guess I'm trying to relate. In the past week, I had a situation, kind of a high conflict situation, where someone was screaming at me like repetitively,
Hmm.
and they were screaming at me for like 12 minutes roughly, and I was finally like, "Hey, do you notice that I don't actually care that you're screaming at me?" And that person was like floored, and
Wow.
basically like, I mean, listen, they were like basically told me I was a spectrum piece of shit and a bunch of other stuff. And I was like, okay, that's aggressive. But like the fact that I don't care is kind of indicative of that you don't have an argument. Like,
Hmm.
and then I said some weird stuff. I was like, so listen, I'm gonna monetize you and you can like fight it or you can make it easier on yourself, but like this is what's happening. And I got out of the meeting and like even my team was like, yo, what's wrong with you? And I was
Whoa.
like, it worked. I'm amazing. And they were like, no, you're weird. Like you're weird. Like what's wrong with you? And I was like, oh, but it worked. Like, like
Yeah.
what's the
Well, because
problem?
you're
I don't understand.
rewarded. So I think when you're rewarded for that thing, you have
Yeah.
like brain is your I'm not a neuroscientist, but like your neural pathways or your brain is rewired to feel okay, it worked in this game of capitalism, in this game of like, not that everything is just a game of capitalism, but there are situations where you have to take on a more strategic like tact with people, right? And
Yeah.
I also found that like I had a situation a couple of months ago where this woman fully knew that you know, that I was transparent with her that I take on paid work, that I did too much pro
Of
bono
course.
work years ago,
Yeah.
was completely broke. Like had, because essentially I was taking on everybody's pain and stories for free.
You can't.
And there
You
was like
can't.
that
There has to. Yeah.
I would do that. And I myself like almost broke. So like I was broke and then I almost broke. So I said to her up front, I charge this. You can talk to all these other clients. She did. She was really excited to go forward. Had full transparency. And things weren't go. She wanted like a New York Times profile within a month. And I was like, that's not happening. That's just, it's just not, it will, there, something will happen eventually. And like things did happen within the time that I
Yeah.
worked here, but it's just not, I like, that is just not how journalism works. And if you force me to pressure them too much, you will never be in the New York Times. And that's
Yep.
worse for you long term. And I understand people are in this fight or flight mode when they're enduring trauma. But so fast forward a month, she ends up moving into a women's shelter because she's afraid. It was really hard, but she was staying with friends, had a job in LA, but was afraid that her ex would come after her. And she didn't want to jeopardize the person who she was staying with. I'm not sure how founded that was. Like, I don't know if he would have actually come after her, but still, it's scary. You don't know. He was an ex-military person. He had gotten his guns back. He had her kids. It's a very complicated story. But at one point, she just starts screaming at me about, and I had done, and this was, I've only ever experienced this with really, really highly traumatized women, and in this particular kind of a way. And she's like,
I think we froze. Ari will be back in a second. I think we need to improve the perhaps the internet in Ari's studio for filming.
okay, I'm back. I'm back.
Oh, you're back. Okay,
Yeah.
so you were telling me the story.
Okay, so the day prior, she was like, "You've saved my life. You've done all these things." And the next day, she's screaming at me, and I believe she's dealing with a lot of stress because of
Of
the
course.
having to move into
Yeah.
this women's shelter. But I just at that point, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna return you all your money.
Oh,
Which like I wouldn't if I were a business owner and like I couldn't do that. But
yep.
because I'm just me, I was like, I can't have this hanging over me. Like I'm just gonna return her money, and tell her I'm not gonna do any more work for her. But she really should just have that money. And so I did, and I felt a lot better. And I think she felt better, and she still contacts me every other day. And I put in the boundaries, and I've said I can't respond to you. I'll try to respond maybe once a week. Um, and she's like, when I do have money, because I know I will, I'm gonna hire you back. And I'm like, please, just no, take care of yourself,
Yeah.
um, first. So situation like that, I feel like I'm able to more like I just do what my gut tells me, which is also selfishly what it made me feel better at the end of the day, but also it did help her. Because I was like, I can't, this is just too, and I now am in a position to return some money to her or to return all her money to her. But you can't really do that um, if you like just have the business hat on.
Yeah. That's real. And also you and I both have we're have the issue where people will go into debt to hire
Mm-hmm.
us because they really want to work with us. And listen, I think that's very rational. Like they have great taste, great decision making. But like
Mm-hmm.
that's tough because you got to sometimes be like, hey, don't lose your house. Like, don't why are we taking out a loan on your home? Like, I get it. You want
Right.
this case to go forward and you want us, but like there are cheaper options out there, like that do good work. Like, and you got to have those. It's hard. It's hard.
Yeah, for sure. So, okay, so this is about, I'm curious if you've ever run into this before. Sarah Wynne Williams, who wrote the book about Meta, the memoir about Meta. Um, I was gonna call it a memoir.
The what?
The memoir about Meta.
The metamor?
Yes, the metamor. So I guess she is set to testify in front of Congress about
Oh,
China, and then Meta tried to block her from testifying, citing her non disparagement agreement. But then a senator basically announced that she still would testify in front of Congress. Have you ever had a situation like that where there's an employment dispute, but then a whistleblower claim, and then the government comes in and they're like, oh, whatever NDA or non disparagement that was signed is no longer valid because this information is the property of the government?
yeah. So I have done. Listen. We've had to deal with a lot of NDAs over the years. And sometimes what you do is you just go get a friendly court or wherever you can to issue a subpoena, because most confidentiality agreements can't be a subpoena because they can't defy the law. Like you can certainly sign a contract to be quiet, but you can't sign a contract to break the law. And declining a subpoena is, in fact, breaking the law, right? So at that point where the subpoena is issued, you're good. So a lot of times, and a lot, well, the classic example is we have a case for somebody and their key witness already settled their case and they're subject to a confidentiality agreement and all the other NDA provisions. And we're like, okay, so we just need to get you subpoenaed. Like, can you come within the bounds of this given state on this given day? We're just going to serve you the subpoena and then you're subpoenaed, and then you don't get a choice anymore. You have to testify no matter what you sign. You can't be held accountable for it because you must comply with the law of the land. You can't defy the courts. Like, boom. And I presume that's what that congressperson did. They, instead of having a voluntary invitation to come and testify, they were like, yeah, let's issue a subpoena, which they can do in certain circumstances. So I'm hoping that's what they did for her. And listen, it's not, listen, I've definitely seen like traffic judges be like, seriously, you need a subpoena? Okay. I mean, I guess I can issue a subpoena. I'm technically a judge. And like they issue it, and like, is it as good as like a real subpoena and federal? No, it's not. But it's something to work with. And a subpoena from Congress is probably as good as it gets. So I think that's a great approach. I hope that's what they did for her.
Yeah. I think a subpoena isn't talked about in the article, but I imagine that that's potentially what they did.
I imagine.
She's testifying.
She is? When?
Next week.
Should we like live stream and react?
Ooh, maybe we should.
I'll let you decide. Let me know.
I need to find out what day it is actually, but it's going to be sometime next week. So, and this is the first time that she's speaking since the gag order.
That's wild. I mean, I feel like I would be ridiculous with like a reaction live stream, like, oh shit, she's doing it. Like,
it's like a drinking game.
Basically. I gave up drinking. It's not fun anymore.
You don't drink anymore.
Yeah, I had 2 drinks in the past 6 weeks, and
wow,
not fun. I'm all right.
Yeah, I know a lot of people who don't drink anymore. My boyfriend doesn't drink. He's been sober for over like a year and a half, and I don't know, I love it too much. I hate feeling hungover. Maybe my views will evolve, but
I'm not saying you should quit or not. I'm just saying, I don't know, I had a lot of horrible things happen to people I care about, and I was just like, this isn't fun. I'm all right.
Yeah. I mean, it changes you completely, like things that you wouldn't otherwise do. You feel more emboldened to do. But maybe that's part of why I like it in moderation, because I feel like I say what's really on my mind, which I always do.
Oh, interesting.
Like I always do, but like I go deeper and deeper. I feel more uninhibited to
That's
truly.
valuable.
Yeah.
It made me more social. Like people people tell me, like, I liked you a lot better when you drank. I'm like, okay, thanks. Like that feels great. Thank you. But like, is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so this final article, I'm now doubting that I actually have an LA Times subscription.
I've been misled.
I did mislead you. I thought I used to. But it's an anti-Asian discrimination story. He was rejected by 16 colleges and now hired by Google, and he's suing the schools for anti-Asian discrimination. Have you ever seen that? Like a school that's been sued for I'm sure you have.
Yeah. So there is like a far right group, allegedly, that the allegation is they're far right. Although I will say that a lot of people just call anybody they don't like far right now. Including somebody's calling Jon Stewart far right. And I was like, I don't think so. He disagreed with oh God, I just forgot her name. This is disrespectful. The most popular anchor on MSNBC.
Oh, I don't even know who the anchors are. I don't watch MSNBC, but
She's super
oh,
famous, but
Rachel
she's
Maddow. Rachel
yeah,
Maddow.
yeah, yeah. She's the only one who can pull like viewership on
Yeah.
MSNBC anymore.
Mhm.
Um, and like they disagreed about something. I think they actually disagreed about like Joe Rogan and, and a little bit, like lightly, a light disagreement. And like a bunch of people were like, Jon Stewart's far right now. And it's just like, I,
Oh
I,
my God.
I don't think so. You can disagree about one person that I think he knows personally. Might be just be like, yeah, I don't think that guy. I think he literally was like, yeah, I don't know. He like vouched for Bernie, so I don't know about that. And then it's like he's a far right activist. You're like, okay, I don't know, but I don't know if Jon Stewart's a far right activist. You know, a
That's insane. That's
little bit.
like those people should be laughing at themselves if that's what they're saying, in my opinion.
Is there? Oh, it's a cat. There's a cat.
Yes. Yes. That is my cat Tiger.
Okay, very nice. I just
Yeah.
like there's a tail levitating.
Tail. No, it's my tail.
Oh,
Yeah, this is Tiger. He's also been painted.
oh, I believe it. Very nice. All
Um,
right. Yeah. So, anyways, going back. So, this group was pushing back on like DEI in universities by filing these like anti-Asian discrimination lawsuits with like mixed results. And I listen, I don't know if this is the same group or not. I'm not pretending to know anything about this group or anything about like how those cases generally went, besides the fact that I like generally knew like quota systems were not going well. And
mm,
so listen, is there merit to that case? I don't know. They don't usually do that well. They're not like big money cases, but they have created some law, is my
mhm.
understanding. And listen, at the end of the day, should we be picking anything by race? Probably not. Like,
Yeah.
we want diversity and we should look at how we achieve diversity. We want representation, we want equality. We could invest in school systems
Mm,
that are better for underprivileged demographics. Like in New York, we live in New York City, and certain populations don't really get very, I don't know if they get real schools at all, frankly. Like I represent a lot of New York City teachers, and I'll tell you right now, certain neighborhoods, amazing teachers. Other neighborhoods, I'm not clear that these teachers can read. Like I've had teachers, I caught them carving things in my conference room table during their own deposition. And it's just like, can can we stop? Like, can you? This is literally the thing that you would stop a student from doing if you were
yeah.
like a real educator. Why are you like you've destroyed my table? That is like a $12,000 table. Like, why would you do this? And they're like, stressed.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, all right, So like, if we give people real education and we really, really provide some level of equal opportunity from the start, I suspect representation will improve. Diversity will improve, right? But right
Yeah.
now, super woke places like New York can't be bothered to give certain populations real school. So, like, how woke are they? And, do we really care about this? Is, you
Mhm.
know, 18 the right age to address diversity and representation? Probably not. Probably start at first grade, maybe younger, right? Like maybe make sure that we actually offer resources and give equal opportunity from the start, because when you're 18, it's kind of late. It's a little, it's kind of tough to get started at that point. I don't know.
Totally.
Just my thought.
Maybe you should run for mayor, Vince.
I too would not like
Wouldn't
my
want
personal life.
to, but I agree with everything you're saying because it starts so much of that is programmed in you and conditioned and patterns and behaviors and access from when you're a child can ripple out into later years in life. I mean, yeah, I think teachers should also be paid a lot more.
Sure, sure. And there should listen. I run a lot of tenure hearings. I think we represent more teachers in tenure hearings than any other private firm in the city. And that's a very lucrative business for us. But I'll say this: if teaching reverted to a meritocracy, I do think certain neighborhoods would have a lot better education.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's going back to Bloomberg, that's what he was trying to do. And as much as people hated Bloomberg, I think he cared. a
Yeah.
lot, like a lot, in a
Mhm.
way that like I just don't think somebody like De Blasio did, because Blasio didn't do fuck all. Pardon my language, for a lot of people, you know. And just my thought. I don't know. You can
Yeah.
say Bloomberg was heartless, but he was trying, and he was like making enemies trying. You know.
Yeah. Crazy.
Sorry, I'm ranting. Are we
No,
done
no,
with the
no.
stories?
We are done.
What are you working on right now? What's on the Substack?
Oh man, I just put out actually a story about the lawyer of a tech billionaire harassing another lawyer who uh, was pregnant and had just given birth.
Oh,
And he was saying to her, basically, or saying to the court, that this woman either was working too hard because she was working on appeal documents while she was going back and forth to visit her daughter in the NICU, because her daughter was, it was a high
oh,
risk pregnancy. Her daughter was in the NICU, but she has her own law practice. She's been the counsel on this case for, I think, like 8 or so years, and she didn't want to give it up to another lawyer. So she was working on it while her newborn was in the NICU. So he was like, she can't really be having personal crises if she's producing all this documentation. And then when she would ask for like day-long extensions because she had to take her daughter to the cardiologist, the lawyer, the opposing counsel, and even her co-counsel was like, she's not working hard enough. Like, and she's like, what is it then? Am I working too hard? Am I not working hard enough? I just had this baby who has issues because of the nature of the high risk pregnancy. And what am I supposed to do? Just give up on my child or give up on the case? So that was one of the stories that I put out this week. And it's involving, do you remember the guy who, during the pandemic, he fired everyone over Zoom? It was a mass firing. He fired 900 employees, and it was posted on TikTok. It went viral. He was faking empathy. He said he cried about it, but it was just so awkward and stilted. And there were articles that came out about him, how he had called his employees dumb dolphins, how he was constantly he brought an axe, a toy hatchet, into work during one of the cuts. He just was a loose cannon and also just a bully and very abusive. So it's this guy is in litigation with his former business partner, who's represented by the lawyer who just gave birth, and it's the guy who mass fired the people on Zoom. It's his lawyer who's pressuring the ex-business partner's lawyer to basically, you know, step up during this time that she has a sick newborn child. So it was kind of connecting all of these, that saying that the lawyers are abetting people like this billionaire. And understandably, I mean, law is a business, as we've talked about, and you have to go where the money is.
yeah.
But the reason that this fraud case has been ongoing for as long as it's been ongoing is because he has lawyers and a team of people who just have to tie themselves to him for life. And that if his ship sinks, they're on his ship and they sink. So they have to do everything that they can in the courts to keep his money, even if it was fraudulently embezzled. And that's what they're alleging, that he basically siphoned off money from his initial business to this new business without the business partner, and then used that money to seed what then became a $1 billion company. And so anyway, that's what I wrote about this week. People were interested in it. I'll send it to you.
That sounds amazing. Let's link it down below.
Yeah.
Lawyers are so wild. Like, I'm never surprised by whatever nonsense lawyers say. It's always, I think we're too used to people wanting to hear what we have. Not wanting, but like they have to listen in a courtroom.
Yeah.
And then you think like, I got stuff that matters. People want to hear me. And it's
Mhm.
like, no, they don't. Which we do a show, and I guess people do watch it. So whatever. But like
Yeah.
the arrogance of doing a show, right?
Yeah, for
I
sure.
don't know.
Well, Yeah, that's just the culture now. I feel like everyone's doing some sort of a show. Everybody's consuming. I don't know if it's, and you have knowledge that you're democratizing that people want to hear from, I think.
Yeah. I mean, there's like so people I think do want to watch it, but it's weird. We had a sponsorship that approached us and they were like, we'll give you our product for free if you do 2 videos for us and we want to use your likeness. And we were like, no, thanks. But like, here's like, if you want to pay us, we'll consider like, we can negotiate a deal. And their take was like, oh, we don't really think your channel is going to pull like that. And then we were just like, our live streams produce on average $20,000 to $50,000 in return. Like you can say what you want, but like we don't need your shitty product. Like it just is one of those things. And then you sit there and you're like, you think about that, and you're like, oh, I guess people like these matter to people. Like it
Mhm,
has value, I guess, you know. And it's
mhm.
also weird because the point of the channel was never to make money. The point of the channel was to give back, and now it's like
Right,
taking on a life of its own, which is kind of regrettable and great at the same time. But it is what it is.
right. It is what it is. It's just how things
Dude.
unfold. But yeah, I think that the lawyer story, I think people are now paying a lot more attention to it because of how big law is responding to Donald Trump with all these executive orders. And people
Yeah.
are wondering like who are the lawyers who are bringing cases and defending people and not defending people, and you know, how much is it about like justice for some people versus just abetting something or abetting someone who pays them handsomely. And it's
Well, big
probably in
laws.
between.
Yeah. I mean, big law is very embattled right now. The business model doesn't necessarily work. Many of them are fracturing and breaking up. You have a lot of work groups splitting off. Like younger attorneys fundamentally understand I'm not going to make partner. Like I'm going to get abused for 10 years and this firm probably won't be here. Or if I do make partner, I can just be departnered if I don't produce enough money. But the quota for what I have to produce per year, I could just start my own firm. Like on a
Hmm.
small scale, I worked at a firm where if I didn't make them 5 grand a week, I couldn't cash my paycheck early in my career. And I was just like, if I can make you 5 grand a week, I'll make it for myself. Like I'm out of here, you know? But like if a firm tells you you need to produce like, I don't know, 3 million a year in business, why do you want to be a partner in that firm? 3 million a
Hmm.
year is pretty comfy. Like go ahead and hire 2 associates and take your 3 million and just work it, you know, like and everybody makes a mill, you know, everybody's all right. But so the big law model, like, unless you're doing something huge like the Lehman bankruptcy or something, like, what what's the point? I don't
I
know.
know.
So they're probably
Maybe it's the
scrambling.
prestige. Yeah, they think that they're supposed to do it. And like the group think, and everybody is like wanting to make partner, and there's still the prestige element for some people who
There
are still,
is. There's
but
people whose family will say, like, oh, you work for
yeah.
Nixon Peabody, you're a big deal. And there's guys who legitimately are like, oh, I got my offer from White and Case. This is gonna help me date. And you're just like, I mean, that's not what they say. They don't say
Yeah,
this is gonna help me
you
date.
can
You know
tell
exactly
they're
what they say.
thinking. You can
But
tell they're thinking it. Yeah. Or
yeah.
they said something else. Okay, I
Oh,
see
they
what you
definitely said something
I
else.
see
Yeah.
what
I
you
mean, listen, I'm not gonna they were like, this is gonna get me laid. I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, like,
Oh my
what are you gonna
God.
get? You gonna wear the sweatshirt? You gonna wear the sweatshirt? Is that how it's like, what are you doing? Like, it's just insane. But that is how they think. It's insane.
That's pathetic.
All right, let's wrap it up. Thank you so much for coming on. This is going to go live Sunday, and it's always a pleasure. Link to the Substack down below. That story sounds super interesting. And take care, everybody. Anything you want to add?
No, just have a great weekend, everyone.
And you take care, everybody.
Say
Like,
bye.
subscribe, comment down below.
Bye.
Bye.